What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of HR Heretics. Kelly, it's good to see you. What a week, huh?
Oh my God, what a what a week, Nolan.
Yeah, we made it.
Whew.
So, we're going to cover two topics today. One is the H-1B madness from this past weekend. The other is going to be a recap of a panel that Kelly and I did with dear friend of the show, Colleen McCreary, at the Confluent People Team Offsite. So, Kelly, let's start with this H-1B madness just to catch everybody up in case you've been living under a rock in Hawaii without service or just completely unaware of your surroundings.
Most
Last
of those
week,
people, by the way. That sounds, terrific.
that is exactly 0% of our audience. Um, so last weekend, obviously the Trump administration on Friday evening, which I'm a little worried what's going to happen, dropped a new executive order on H-1Bs, essentially saying that they're going to cost $100,000 per year. That then changed to like, oh, it's only for new ones, and maybe it's a one-time thing. There's still a ton of uncertainty here. And so, my text chains blew up. We did an emergency episode on Monday with Nicole from Manifest Law. If you haven't listened to that, you definitely should if you have any sort of immigration program at your company. But Kelly, like, what are you hearing on the streets?
Yeah, I just talked to one of my good friends, I told you a couple hours ago, and if she listens to this, which she will, she knows who she is, but she's on the East Coast, and got this note on the East Coast. It was like Friday, right? It was late day, almost evening. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't
It
like
was night.
yeah,
It was night.
it
Yeah.
wasn't like a Tuesday at, 11 a.m. Pacific or something, and she happens to work in a company where they heavily use these visas and hire a lot of this great talent, and it literally like created so much anxiety and all this stuff for the weekend. So there's just that part of it that I think we should call out, is the what of this is enough, but how this hit and the franticness it caused. I mean, right, we saw on the news planes just tarmacked for 5 hours, like it's
Totally.
just not like, there's a what and there's a how. We know this in tech. Like, your performance is based on the what and the how. Like, independent of the what, this how is fucking awful.
I
And
agree.
someone should be fired over that. I don't care if you agree or you disagree with whatever this is or turns into be or doesn't. That's just terrible.
Yeah. The rollout was it was fucked up. Like it wasn't cool, to like make everybody scramble. We had multiple friends who were literally trying to track down hundreds of employees to figure out where in the world they were and if they were outside of the country to try and get them back before Sunday at midnight, aka Saturday night, right? And this is on Friday that they're trying to do this. A lot of that stuff came to pass as like not a concern, but it didn't matter in the moment, right? Like you still had to do it. And you
That's
had
the
to,
best
and
part, is it was like, oh, just kidding. You're fine if XYZ. So I just, like, be a good person. Someone think through this stuff. That's what we're trained to do in our jobs, right? Kind of walk through the process and you think through all the angles, and it's just the 101 of a comms plan.
yeah.
So that sucks.
For me, it's kind of like the microcosm of the chief people officer role. Like, you sit down on Friday night, you're at dinner with your wife, you just like got the wine poured, and you're about to just take a deep breath for the first time in 6 days. And then all of a sudden your phone starts blowing up. And sadly, like that is a big part of the role. And to your point, like these are all self-inflicted wounds. Like it didn't have to be this way, but it is this way. And so now we're here. And so I want to transition the conversation to, what are you hearing about people in their immigration plans and what are companies doing?
Yeah, I have kind of two, I guess, adds to this, and the first one's probably not as interesting. Is a lot of folks are pausing, and we're one of them, and it's not pausing because we don't want to do this. Do you know what I mean? The $100,000, I think that tech companies will spend this for the right talent, albeit it might be a little bit more selective, and it might force organizations to have their stuff together, so to speak, on what talent they need and if this is going to be an investment. So it might put more teeth in that, whereas before it was a little like, yeah, go, open it up, get the visa. So I think that will shift. But a lot of folks, because of what we just experienced over the weekend, and the continued ambiguity and the potential for whipsawing and pulling the rug out and unknown. Everyone's just kind of like, I don't trust this. I'm going to stop and pause until there's a little bit more concrete information, which I think is a valid thing to do.
That was actually my recommendation to friends over the weekend who are at large tech companies that have H-1Bs or many H-1Bs on staff is I would be looking through my recruiting pipeline right now, understanding if people are required or sorry, have the work authorization for the United States, and then essentially just like at least understanding that group and saying if none of this is time sensitive or like must be hired yesterday, we should put a pause on it because everything is uncertain. And like in moments of uncertainty, my goal is always not to make the problem worse. And I think you can make the problem worse by just kind of like pushing on as is and, crossing your fingers and hoping like this doesn't become a problem for us. So that feels like actually like a prudent path forward. The other thing I'm hearing is, and I talked to Nicole about this on Monday, these alternative paths. And I think for a long time, immigration is one of those things that you don't get points for as a cheapy pop. It's like, make sure it works, right? Make sure we're able to hire people, make sure that these people like are happy with the process, and then just like never think about it again. Now I think like we have to reopen this book and we got to dust it off and figure out like, well, let's think about this from first principles. What are other potential paths here? And again, just referring back to the episode Nicole and I did on Monday, she laid out some really interesting options that I think a lot of friends are starting to like seriously look at.
Yeah, I personally know, multiple companies where if the prudent path is to kind of pause, and I agree with that, we all know companies who are like, fuck that. We're not waiting. We're not going to play defense. We're going to keep figuring out, right, creative ways. That's the founder mindset, and I know companies that are like, it might take 12, this is one example, it might take 12 months and cost some money and time, but get the ball rolling on an entity in this country
Wow.
and make that decision. And usually, these companies were flirting with that geo footprint anyway, so it's not like a out of the blue random decision, although it could be. If nothing else, to have the option and use it as an insurance policy, so to speak, to not be stuck another year from now if this stuff continues or gets worse or continues to be, they just want to continue to play offense and have options. And it's a backstop move. And they're like, it's going to cost $100K to get talent anyway. I'm going to spend it opening this entity and hopefully being able to play more offense a year from now if things are the same or maybe even more stringent.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, yeah, it's uncertain. And I will say, I do think we have some hints, right? And in the proclamation, it was super clear that the current administration wants to continue to hire or continue to attract top talent. I just think the path of the H-1B, given how much consternation there was about this, especially the term Gary Tan uses is body shops. So these like large consulting firms that are just like trying to get as many of these people as possible, and then they contract them out to American tech companies. I think that's the problem they're trying to solve. Is this the best way to solve the problem? I'm not sure. This is a very complicated matter, but I do think the administration has hinted like they still want the best talent in the United States. And so if it was me and I was a chief people officer today and I was looking at my immigration program, I think your path is an interesting one, which is like looking at some of these other countries and establishing entities there. I think another interesting path is like, what are these alternatives that Nicole talked about on Monday? And do they make sense for our employee population? And what is specifically the probability that we can actually use this as a vehicle to get these people that we want to hire?
Mm-hmm. The last thing, I guess, I'm curious your take, because we love to talk about our little bubble here and talked to a couple friends in different states. They're like, what? Whatever. Like, you guys it's just impacting you and tech and California. Like, are you hearing that? Am I on Pluto? Again, it's two data points, which may be ridiculous, but.
Yeah, I mean, so I grew up in Gilbert, Arizona, and
Gilbert.
Yeah,
Where is
and Gilbert now is like a fully built out place. When I was there, it was like farm towns, and so
educate us though, Nolan? Where is that on the map? Let's use.
Gilbert is about 15 minutes southeast of Scottsdale. It's like 20 minutes to Sky Harbor Airport. So it actually is like super central in the zone. But anyways, I mention it to say that my friend group there does not work in tech. And when they see this stuff, for them, they're just like, good. Like, good. We should not like we should be really thoughtful about attracting the best talent to our country. And if there's these like weird back doors that people are exploiting, we should shut them. And so there's that piece. The other piece, though, in our bubble is I think there's been a really big narrative around this kneecapping the startup industry. And, Gary Tan came out and said that exact phrase over the weekend on X and on LinkedIn. And look, I mean, I guess like I'm still gathering information. My experience has been for a brand new startup, so many things have to go right that like putting somebody through the H-1B lottery feels like another miracle in a series of miracles you already need. So why would you do that? You would avoid that path and constrain it to American-based hiring or to visas that are like much more clear that you're going to be able to work with these people long term. But that said, it does appear that like H-1B transfers are happening into startups. And so I think it remains to be seen how much of an impact this will have on the startup industry. My gut tells me it's not going to be that big of a deal because there's going to be a different path, but certainly it's disruptive.
Hey everyone, we'll be right back in a moment after a word from our sponsors. On this show, we tell the truth about HR. And one of my favorite conversations we've had was with Melanie Naranjo. She put it so simply, HR isn't about optimizing for compliance. It's optimizing for people, for culture, trust, and workplaces where folks actually want to stay. That's why I'm such a fan of what Melanie and her team at Ethena are building. She was brutally honest about it.
So Ethena, we're a compliance company, which let's just put it out there. That sounds pretty boring if you think about it, right? Okay, harassment prevention training, not very exciting, right? We are very lucky in that we are in the HR tech space that's required, right? Harassment prevention training is not really optional. You need it. The question is, who are you going to use for it?
Exactly. You're doing this training whether you want to or not. But here's what she told us about the impact.
The amount of impact that I've been able to have from the HR perspective has been just huge. It's phenomenal. We're doing all these amazing things that, quite frankly, too many companies don't do because they don't understand the power of their HR team.
Instead of boring, check-the-box training that everyone hates, Ethena delivers content that's modern and impactful. We're talking 200-plus courses in 100-plus languages with a 93% learner positivity rating to back it up. They take on all the tough topics, harassment prevention, workplace violence prevention, code of conduct, and make them actually engaging. And for HR, it's effortless. Training runs on autopilot with automated enrollments and reminders. There's even a built-in hotline and case management system to help a true speak-up culture. Look, you're going to do compliance training anyway. Why not use something that actually works and doesn't make your people want to hide under their desks? Done right, like with Ethena, compliance becomes a strategic tool. It's actually a way to reinforce your values and build a stronger workplace. Check them out at goethena.com/heretics. That's goethena, goethena.com/heretics. Get 10% off of your first year. Your workforce is your organization's greatest strength and often its largest single expense. But without the right tools, understanding where your workforce spend is going or how it impacts your bottom line can be a challenge. That's where Planful comes in. With Planful, HR and finance teams get the clarity they need to make smarter workforce decisions, gain real-time visibility into workforce fluctuations, forecast with confidence, and adjust talent acquisition plans collaboratively based on costs today and into the future. No more guesswork, just data-driven insights to help you plan with accuracy. And the best part, Planful is fast and easy to implement, so you can be up and running in weeks, not months, with minimal IT support. Plus, as your company grows, Planful grows with you, providing endless runway for strategic workforce planning at any scale. Ready to take your workforce planning to the next level? Join over 1,500 organizations already using Planful. Visit planful.com/heretics to learn more.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you shared that story. Again, independent of what you agree with or don't, or your position, it's just really good to know what, all the angles of the reactions. It's important.
Yeah. Yeah, especially outside of tech. So
Yeah.
more to come on this topic. We're gonna stay close on this one and keep people posted with what we're hearing, and also obviously anything that comes out that will actually like make real policy change that we can then operate on. Second topic I want to talk about is 2 weeks ago, Kelly, you and I flew to Vegas to go hang out with Colleen at the Confluent People Team Offsite. What was your takeaway from that event? What'd you think?
Yeah, it was great. So Colleen, our friendly bestie on here, runs 100. I didn't know this. Confluent, which is a pretty. It's not a new company, right? How long has it been around?
Publicly traded tech company.
Yeah, and her HR team is 150 people strong. And the first thing I'll say is good for her I think we're on the verge of seeing this trend of really good people leaders taking on more, Nolan. So not only is she the people leader, but recently she was given like all of biz ops and IT, and so she's got this huge remit, and I love that because the mindset she's always had is building a business. It wasn't HR. And, I talked to someone else about my new gig at Supio, and it's like, it's not really HR. It's like, how do we build this frickin' thing? It doesn't matter if it's HR or business or this or that or RevOps. So I love the mindset she brought to that and to the offsite. It was great. We kind of did what we do on here with the group on stage. We bantered, we disagreed, we kicked stuff around, we poked fun at each other, and I thought it was really good. I was surprised the group seemed a little bit more wide-eyed than I'm used to. And I don't know if that's like the company or the industry or it's public, it's bigger, Nolan. I felt like things we were saying were a little bit edgier than I guess I'm used to having chats around here. And that's not bad or good. Because it was really helpful and there was a ton of engagement, a ton of questions. But yeah, it was definitely spicy.
Yeah, it was. So, typically when you get me, you, and Colleen together, you're going to get a lot of contrarian takes, and then you're going to get like disagreement. And I think like the biggest takeaway for me was like, one, conversation was really fun. And I think it stretched like the thinking of all of us, right? The group and the three of us, which is like the whole reason you and I do this podcast every week is like, it's good to hear differing perspectives. Thing two is it turns out like people listen to the show, I guess. And like we had like listeners get up and say like, Nolan, I know you hate employee engagement surveys. Like, why do you hate them so much? Like, what is your deal with these things? And I think we had actually like a great discussion on that. We talked a lot about AI and the use cases specifically that I'm seeing. And then Colleen asked me a question that no one's really asked me directly. And she asked this question to both of us. And she asked, what's your most contrarian HR belief? Remind me what your answer was, Kelly?
Yeah. So yes, yeah. She asked, what have you kind of been shunned for, whether it's outside your company or inside your company, for your philosophies, right, or things that you've said or done. And I was like, I remember in 2016, I was working at Hired. Remember the recruiting platform, Hired, and we were big proponents of pay equity and pay transparency, right? Because we were helping folks get great offers, and we were a marketplace for hiring companies and candidates. And that being said, so we were very prominent in the industry and in the area on wage gap and wage transparency and equity. And I remember saying, I don't believe that everyone should make the same. And in some cases, a man maybe should make more than a woman in the same job, or vice versa. Or maybe this male should make more than this male, or this woman should make more than this one. It's more complicated than that. And I got a lot of flack for that because it was heavy DEI era, which I still agree with everyone. Yeah. It's just, I got a lot of flack for because what people heard was you support women making less than men, right? That was the takeaway, which wasn't what I said, but that was a whole thing. And I stuck to it, and I still do.
Yeah. It's such a nuanced topic. And I do think people who have actually been in the calibration sessions and then have taken the calibration into performance, like locking in performance, and then looking at comp, variance, what I always say is like, if it ends up on the front page of the New York Times, can we explain why?
Yeah, for sure. For sure. What was your
Yeah.
answer?
So my answer, it was when she hit me with this on this stage, I was like, man, I have a lot of these. But like, if I was to put it under one umbrella, it would be, do not bring your personal beliefs into the organization and expect the organization to operationalize them.
Hey everyone, we'll be right back in a moment after a word from our sponsors. AI changes how work gets done. Recruiting is no exception. Metaview is the AI platform purpose-built for recruiting. If you're looking to level up your AI adoption and see real impact from intake to offer, it's a no-brainer. Metaview's suite of AI agents works for you at every stage of the hiring process. Their platform powers instant job post creation, AI-powered candidate Q&A, insights on pipeline performance, compensation, and so much more. I've seen firsthand how tough it can be to extract consistently high quality data from candidate conversations. I've been in candidate debriefs where interviewers told us about their feelings instead of what actually happened in the interview. And I've seen VPs and CEOs block hires because they didn't learn anything from skeleton scorecards. Metaview changes all of that. For every candidate in every pipeline, bring radical efficiency and precision to your hiring process with perfect data from every conversation. Metaview covers all of your compliance needs, works with all of your existing tools, and takes less than 3 minutes to set up. Join talent leaders at more than 3,000 elite companies like Brex, Deel, 11 Labs, and Quora, and check out Metaview. Just head over to metaview.ai/heretics to talk to one of Metaview's product experts or get started for free. You'll be up, running, and AI enabled in minutes.
And so specifically what I'm getting at there is, I've done this. I made this mistake of coming into an organization being like, these are the things I believe and that matter to me, and I want to operationalize them and have them be part of the company's ethos. And it turns out companies, specifically with founder-led companies, but even just like companies with a hired CEO, like, it's not our choice. Like, it's the HR leader is supposed to take what the leadership team wants and to operationalize that, not to bring their thing in and say, we should be doing this because I believe this is right and I'm looking out for our people. And so, how do you think that landed?
Look, like I said, I kind of got wide eyes with mine, and I think you kind of got some wide eyes with yours. And
Yeah.
I guess what I loved about all of it, though, and Colleen had some hot takes too, and I saw them kind of like,
Yeah.
is shocking the system by speaking openly and showing that there are different, very poignant viewpoints, and you're going to run into that your whole career, was kind of like how I'd encapsulate the whole thing.
Yeah. For me, it was like another reminder of how important it is to have conversations with people who have these differing viewpoints. And, I walked away from the event like feeling like my mind had expanded on topics that I'd been thinking about for a little while, and then like coming in a little bit more refined after the fact. And, you and I talked to a bunch of people after, which was a blast, because then they could come and like be like, dude, what's wrong with you? But it wasn't like that. It was more of just like, elaborate more on this thing.
Yeah.
And, it reminded me about like the people who I love to hang with the most are those that are like generally curious and they're open to changing their mind. And so, what you describe as wide-eyed, I would describe as people thinking about something from a different angle that they hadn't maybe considered. And then they were like pondering that thing.
Yeah.
And that's fun.
I think that was definitely delivered. And frankly, it's really important. Like, there was a time in my career, even in the last 10 years, where I wasn't doing that as much as I should, because you can kind of get into your thing and you know what I mean? And this podcast, and frankly, hanging out with you, because we disagree on a lot of stuff. And just not taking stuff personally and being like, yeah, this is awkward, but I think you're ridiculous and you're great. And well, why? Like, right? Even though you disagree and not getting angry, why? Like, tell me, let me unpack that in your mind. was a big one. And I think the other thing I'll say, and I've told you this many times, I just had one of my heads of people coaching clients 45 minutes ago and hit it again. You never fucking know what is going to come. Like, right, you don't really know the wonderful ripple effects and the different doors and experiences that are going to come with things that you just say yes to, and you don't know what's going to happen. Do you know what I mean? Like, so this podcast, I thought we'd get kicked out in 6 months. I'm like, great, I'll learn what media production is, whatever. And here we are. And you and Colleen are really close now. You were kind of frenemies before. We're really close.
No, we were straight enemies before like you introduced us. That's like which we told that story too.
Yeah. Yes. Colleen and I are now like friends. We were close. We weren't like friends. And look at that, right? We did this thing, and you know, I come from a working class. We didn't grow up with a ton of money, and it's like, hey, come to Vegas for 24 hours, like all expenses paid, talk with the team and hang out, and that stuff like matters to me at least. So I guess I just keep honing on this topic in careers, that it is about people, and it's about being altruistic and doing things. Maybe you don't get anything from it right away. You get like, look what's happened. So I just want to hit that home. It's a little cheesy, but it was really cool.
Yeah, it was awesome. And it's like, it's another reminder of like what I love most about the show and, you know, our relationship with Colleen is that we don't agree on everything, not even close to everything, right? But like, we can still be friends. We can understand the other person's perspective, and we can still love each other. And I think that is like hopefully like the thing people get out of this is like different perspectives and different angles to solve problems and think about problems. But that's my favorite part about doing this with you, Kelly. Are we on like year 3 now? Is that like where we are in this thing?
Like dog years, I don't know. But we've gotten a lot of great feedback that people like this because it does have meat and it has meaningful stuff, but it's also enjoyable and it's kind of light, and people are like, oh, I listen to you in my commute, because it's like, you're going to fucking work. You don't want to like listen to more, you know, work stuff. And so it's light that way. So I'm going to end on a light note. You're going to love this.
Please.
Speaking of poking at each other. So I want the audience's feedback on this. Text me or text Nolan or LinkedIn message us. But I'm in the ballroom Colleen and I are waiting for Nolan to come in, and he comes in, and I just want you to picture. I want you to, you know where I'm going.
I know exactly.
For those of you who have met Nolan, he's like, what, 6'3"?
6'4".
6'4", very tall, very slender. I think I called you the stork once of a person. Great looking human. Love it. Has a full like button down shirt on, tucked in perfectly with a shiny brown belt. Pants are high-waisted, looks like slim jeans that have no wrinkles in it. The best part are these like Italian, like moccasin loafer, like brown leather shoes, right? Slipped on, no socks, just looks like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't even know. But I was like, look at this. Look, and I'm sitting there in my hoodie and, you know, the same Adidas shoes. And I'm like, look at this. Dress for success. And Nolan goes, you know what? Silicon Valley is cleaning up. People are dressing up more. And I was like, no, they're not. I want opinions on this.
I also said, my mother taught me to never be underdressed. And so, by the way, she's like #1 listener of the show. Love you, mommy. So with that, always great hanging with you guys. And we'll see you next week.
I love it. Bye, y'all.
HR Heretics is a podcast from Turpentine, the network behind Econ 102, Moment of Zen, and Turpentine VC. Subscribe, 5 stars, share it on Apple, YouTube, Spotify, anywhere you get your podcasts, all the things.